and start with where the budget template can be found. Can everyone hear me and see my screen? Are we looking at the Learn
Yeah.
24? Is
Yep.
everyone looking at the Learn
Yep.
24 website?
Yep.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Okay, so this is the Learn 24 website. On the Learn 24 website, if you go to service providers and funding opportunities, if you click on funding opportunities, this area is where the grant competitions and the RFAs exist. If you scroll to the bottom of the page, there are two links at the very bottom of that page that with the title attachments. One says the Learn 24 program budget template, and the other one says Learn 24 program budget template SMP. So the budget templates that we have are two separate budget templates. One is for small nonprofit organizations, and the other template is being requested to be used for all other organizations. The difference between the two templates is that the indirect rate for small nonprofit organizations is 20%. So I just want to say that out off front. We will get there as we go down the budget template a bit. I'm going to make this a little bigger so that everyone can see it. Can everyone see my screen in the budget template in Excel?
Yes. Is that the small nonprofit budget template that we're looking at?
No, this is the general one.
Okay.
Only thing that's different in that one is this last line under indirect costs rate. Okay, so this is a fillable form, and we will send this to everyone. It's already accessible on, the website. We'd ask that you go there. If for some reason you cannot access it, we can send this to you. You can request it via your grant manager. At the very top, of course, you want to indicate the name of the organization. The directions say only enter expenses that will be charged to the grant. I believe we received that same question in some of our questions and answers that we've posted, and we just want to ensure to reiterate it here. The only expenses that need to be in this budget template are those that are being charged the Learn 24 grant. You're going to insert roles, categories, or expenses as needed and include a description of the calculations. You'll see as we go down, the information that has been provided is general template information, right? So these areas don't have to match exactly for what the organization has. And we'll talk about how to add and delete roles, leave roles blank or delete blank roles if an expense is not charged to the grant, and the total at the very bottom must meet or equal the amount requested in funds. Okay? So as we look at the document here, this is just indicating that these are the expenses and we want a description of the calculation. So the very first group here is personnel expenses. Okay, these are going to be salaries for employees, the title and name of the person. It does not have to have the name. Sometimes people come and go and transition through organizations, but we definitely need to know the title of the role that the person is doing. So if it's program director, we want program director there. If there is a name, you can put the name there, but the name is not required. We want a brief description here of the program role. So it would give a very brief description of what the program director will do. And it will also provide a calculation in here of that person's wages, right? So we also call that time and efforts. What is that person's hourly rate times the hours they are going to work times the total time that they are being funded for, right? So if that's a program director, they're working 5 hours a day, 5 days a week, times 5 weeks, it would be the total of that salary for the program director. And we want to see the titles here of all of the positions that are being funded by the grant. If an additional row needs to be added here, this is Excel, what you can do is either highlight the row across here or click on that number, right? Then you want to right click and you're going to, you can put a title here and a brief description and can add as many rows as necessary. Okay, they will come up blank, but as long as it is under that category, you can add the title and the description and the total salary for all of the employees here. The same goes with payroll taxes, right? We will put the expense here and explain the calculations prorated. Now, this payroll taxes could be individualized by all of the staff here, or it can be one whopping amount. Okay, and then benefits. Explain the benefits here that are being calculated to be charged to the grant, the explanation, and then the prorated amount. Generally, the grant is not covering the expenses for full salaries, so we want the prorated amount of the benefits, the payroll taxes, and even the salaries that are directly being charged to the Learn24 grant. Since I just showed how to add rows, I'm going to stop there and see if there are any questions.
I have a question.
Go right ahead.
It is it possible for a program to propose to, I mean, is it mandated that we have to have staff benefits and or payroll taxes taken out, included into our budget?
It is not.
Okay,
It is
thank
not.
you.
So let's just say, right, and we'll go through that exercise. I appreciate that question. Let's just say an organization is only charging staff salaries and they are not going to include any payroll taxes or benefits.
Vania, I'm just breaking in for 1 second because someone asked if it could be made any bigger on the screen. They're just having trouble seeing the wording.
Tell me if this is big enough.
It looks much bigger to me.
Yes, thank you.
No problem, no problem. So if an organization is not going to be considering any of the expenses, you can do the same thing and highlight the rows that are not going to be included in the budget. You want to right click, right? And then you're going to hit delete. And it will delete that section and only provide salaries for those employees. If ever you do something in Excel and you want to make a quick change, you should have an arrow at the top that allows you to go back. So I clicked that back arrow and it has allowed me to add everything in that section that I deleted. If I want to go backwards the other way, then I hit the other arrow. Okay, just a tidbit about Excel. All right, the next section that we've indicated here is program implementation, right? So these are all of the things that are going to be considered to provide the program. So contracted services, if there are any contractors, right, they're already should be included in the application. So we want to ensure that they have a copy of their agreement or contract, the name of the contractor, a brief description of what they will be doing, the amount that they will be charged. You can do rate times time or just the total amount and add it here. And that should be for any and all contractors that are being paid. I do see a hand up, Ms. Carter.
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let's go to Ms. Carter first and then we'll come back to you.
Okay.
Thank you, Vania. I just had a question about brief description of contract and agreement. Are we attaching, we do have to attach any contracts and agreements we have with contractors, right?
Yes,
In here, can we say see contract?
you could. I would
Okay,
say,
thank you.
I would provide like the name of the contractor at least, right? Like contract to provide summer services with Vania Bowie organization.
Okay, thank you.
But you don't need to provide that contract with the application
That's right.
process.
That's right.
That's
So
only
you'll-
for later
That's
if
right.
you are awarded.
That's right. So here
Yeah,
we just did a brief description of it because this is to be submitted with the application.
Oh,
But you could-
okay, wait. So this is the application, I'm sorry. This is the application, budget for the application.
That's right.
The budget for the application, we're not attaching any contracts or agreements that we have with people.
Not with the application. You will be providing it on the if awarded.
Okay, so so can you just give me an example of like what a brief description might entail?
So you would
Like-
say,
Because it all has
Contract.
to fit on this one line, right?
oh, well, you can start typing and it will tab down.
I see. Okay, thank you.
So,
Option is, we'll receive, contracted services from Vania Bowie organization to provide swimming lessons to youth over the summer program for 5 weeks. That's a brief description. And if you're contracting me and I cost $5,000 for the summer, then you would put that here.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Ms. Bowie, so my question, I have a couple of questions. Number one is, what is the benefit rate? What do you consider fringe benefits?
We don't provide a rate for fringe benefits.
Okay,
We
so,
do not.
okay. So we just need to include whatever.
That's
we
right.
have in
You need to
for the
include the
employees.
organizational rate, the rate that the organization uses for fringe benefits in that
Okay.
line.
Okay, and also, what do you consider small nonprofits?
Oh, a small nonprofit is an organization that has an total organizational budget of $250,000 or less.
Oh, okay. Okay. That is real small. Okay, not a problem. Okay, got it. All right, thank you.
Okay.
Oh, yes, thank you.
All right. Okay, I'm going to keep going. So program implementation, that was for contracted services, supplies and materials, right? So we provide an example here. This is learning materials, curricula, books, etc. Right? You want to add lines if there are additional lines needed. If for some reason it makes sense to put them, all in the same line item, as long as there is a brief description for those, then that will work as well. Now, generally, it makes it clearer if there is a different line item for curricula and books, and then supplies, right? And then backpacks, and right? So it makes it a lot clearer when there are different lines indicated. And for the brief description, we wanted to say, right, if we're purchasing something for youth, like learning materials and curricula, we wanted to show 4 books for 60 youth to use over the summer, right? As a material for summer programming, right? And the number of youth should be indicated here in the description of the prorated. If it is prorated, describe how. If it's completely for the summer program, then you can put the total amount here. Same thing with supplies and any additional supplies that are being included. Okay.
Bunny, I think it's gone a little smaller again. If you can, I think it just does that.
Oh, no, I see it the same, but I can make it bigger. See it bigger?
A little bit, yep.
Okay. So then we have equipment here. Expense of the equipment. What is that? I would say also take a look in the RFA in regards to equipment. Look at that definition. I do believe we have that in there in our definitions section in regards to what equipment can be. Provide a brief description of the equipment, the calculations, and if it's prorated, described how. Total dollar amount of that equipment will be here. If there is no equipment and no equipment is being funded to the grant, you would highlight that section and you would delete it. Okay?
Okay.
For travel, I'm a little bit over from our meeting, but I'll finish this part.
I'm sorry. Did you say, I'm sorry.
No problem. Go ahead, Ms. Carter.
Did you say that if we don't have a item on the budget to delete it from the sheet?
You can, or you can just leave it blank. If it's difficulty in making deletions, then you can just leave it blank and don't put any information here or any totals down here.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, if it's difficult to make the deletion. All right, so this is a section for travel, right? This is going to be any offsite learning travel, any transportation. If for some reason an organization is including buses as a part of their budget, staff travel, and other expenses, right? So this is just a blank area for expense name. If for some reason the organization is providing busing, they want to put a brief description of that here and how much it costs, right? If you can provide a description of how many days the bus will be used times how many hours times the time and really drill that down to get to the total cost, then we want it to be as granular as possible there. Okay. There's marketing and outreach, if there's any of that, printing, website, any others. Other program cost, right? So if there are any other expenses that are being billed to the grant. And then there's program operations, and I see some hands raised here, but I'm going to have to drop off in a minute. So I want to get through this and I'll allow the team to pick up with additional questions. There's program operations. So if there's rent there, we'll ask that the rent be prorated. We want to ensure that if the program is going on for 5 weeks, that it doesn't show that rent is being paid for 5 months, right? So it has to be proportional to what's being asked in the application. That goes for utilities, that goes for telephones, equipment. The grant also offsets insurance, but only proportional to what is being covered by way of what is being funded. The grant can also cover postage and delivery. One thing that I very clear about here before I have to drop off, unfortunately, is this program expenses line. This is the indirect amount, okay? This is here for your purposes as a grantee. As far as the OST office, we do not need backup and supporting documentation for the indirect cost. So if you do not want to detail that here, you do not. But we need the total of the indirect amount here that is being charged to the grant. Team, I'm going to have to jump off. I'm asking that you pick it up from here, okay? Everyone, thank you for attending. If there are any questions, the team will be able to support, all right? Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vania.
Thanks, Vania.
Thank you, Vania.
Thanks, Vania. Thank you.
Malik, do you want to put up the budget template from your screen, or do you want me to do it from mine?
Yeah, I just got to pull it up.
Okay.
Just pull it up really quick.
Okay.
I have a
And I do
question.
see that there was one question I can answer right away. Kitty, you asked if you can charge for OST programs that don't take place on public or charter school grounds. Our programs can take place any place, whether it's in DC or out of DC. They do not need to be on any school grounds at all. And as long as they serve district youth. So you can charge for programs that occur anywhere.
Okay, I have a question. And my question is, are small nonprofits up to 20%? How about larger nonprofits? What is the indirect rate for that?
It's 10%.
10? Okay, right, thank you.
Unless you have a NICRA, which is the negotiated indirect
Indirect rate.
cost rate, the federal rate. Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem.
Deborah, can you? I'm having some issues with pulling it up. Do you have it up by any chance? If you can share your screen, I could just.
Sure.
For some reason, mine is stalling.
Let me.
Can you clarify the 10%? Is it 10% of the program budget?
It is 10% of the
Direct
program
expenses.
budget.
Perfect, thank you.
10%, I'm sorry, of the grant funds. You cannot, I'm sorry, we
That's what I
cannot, yes.
yeah. If we're asking, so just to round it, we're asking for $100,000, the 10% would be 10%, $10,000.
$10,000.
Of
Yes,
indirect. Okay,
that
thank
is
you.
correct.
Can everybody see my screen?
Can I, if I may interject, 10%, 10% supposed to be 10% of direct expenses. If that your direct expenses is $90,000, your indirect cost will be $9,000. It's supposed to be 10%. So the total grant is 110%. It's 110%. 10% of 90,000 is 9,000. It will, if your grant is $100,000, it will not be, your indirect will not be $10,000. It will not be. It will not be because your direct expenses. Okay, let me Let me do that real quick. Let me calculate that for you real quick. I can tell you right now. I'm a CPA and I've done this for years with the government. And 1 second, please.
$100,000.
Divided by 1.1. That would be your indirect. $100,000 divided by
10%
1.1.
of $100,000.
So if you
Oh.
divide $100,000 by 1.1, your indirect is your direct expenses is 90,909. So your
Right, but
indirect.
I understand what you're saying, but the way we have always done the calculations it is a straight 10% up to, not more than, but up to 10% from the total, which if it's $100,000 grant would be $10,000 for.
That's even better, but that is more than 10%. I'm just letting you know it's more than 10%.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I did want to circle back on some of the previous discussions. So again, this template is for organizations to provide us a roadmap of what you are looking to expense during the grants period. Of course, this is a breakdown of how you came up with your calculations, and if you're awarded the grant funding, this will be referenced as we go through the grant cycle. So I strongly suggest that you really hammer down the details within this. It strengthens your argument to receive funding from our office, but in addition, it also provides us a roadmap of how you all have budgeted and expense your proposed program. There is an opportunity to modify this after awarded, where you can make changes. But again, as mentioned before, some of the hard things is that small nonprofit, you have up to 20% for indirect. The rest has to be for programmatic needs. And then general grant competition outside of small nonprofit, it is 10% of the program award amount. So we do provide you multiple opportunities to work with your grant manager if awarded to modify this. But the purpose of applying through the RFA, we ask that again, this is closely resembles what you propose, and it makes sense as we evaluate your application. So Vania did a tremendous job going through each bracket. These brackets can be edited if it's not relevant to your organization and what you propose. It is a document that can be edited, but again, make sure that the calculations are 90% programmatic, 10% or 20% based off competition for indirect. So I do want to make sure that is clear, because again, if you're awarded, you will have to resubmit this, which will provide you another opportunity to make modifications to your budget. But for the purpose of application-wise, this has to be calculated correctly to know exactly what you're requesting and why. So with that, I just want to open up the forum to any additional questions related to this. Regarding this, this can, again, be manipulated and edited before you submit. But if there's any questions, I do see there's several hands raised. Let's start with Jackie Carter. If you are able to take yourself off mute just to ask your question.
Oh, I'm sorry. My hand was already answered. My question was already answered. I'll just unraise my hand. Sorry about that. Thank you.
Sorry about that, Jackie. Moving on to Ms. Hayes. If you want to provide your question to our team, we can do our best to respond.
Did you say Ms. Mays or Ms. Hayes?
I do apologize. I meant Miss Mays.
Okay.
I think I did say Hayes, but
Okay,
Miss
no
Mays.
problem. I just wanted to make sure. I think so. Staff travel is like going to and from the actual site, correct?
It could be, depending on your narrative, depending on what you explain. Transportation, ideally, we would like it for programmatic needs, if possible. But if you can provide a narrative that is clearly defined of what you mean by that, and again, you're
Well, I guess-
referring to employees going to working back home, if that's what you're referring to?
Well, I'm saying to their, so basically, no, like from our, so basically we'll go to school. So we would go to the different schools. So would it be considered, for them going from the office to the school, back to the office, things like that, or like to the office, and then obviously they would be going home because, we offer mileage. So basically we offer mileage. And so however we define mileage, would that be able to be reflected here?
So what I would say is that I would strictly regulate it to programmatic needs. And this is that you do organizational within your own guidelines or bylaws within your organization. But
Mhm.
regarding programmatic, we can support transportation from to meet students where they're at. If you can clearly define that and provide us some type of calculation on what the mileage rate would be,
Mhm.
it would make sense. Then absolutely. But I would say that we mainly focus on programmatic needs rather than organizational back home type of transportation. If that makes sense.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Miss Mays. I do apologize for pronouncing your name wrong. Pass it on, Ann Troy, if you want to take yourself off mute to ask your question.
I have two questions. Hi, Malik. First question is, if we're not asking for indirect costs, we do not have to fill out that line, correct?
That is very correct. Yes, ma'am. If you have 100% programmatic needs, then yeah, you could do it. I strongly suggest indirect will provide you a buffer, but that's again at your own discretion. But if you do not have indirect, then no need to identify that on that budget.
Okay, thank you. My second part of my question is, we're going to be requesting $150,000. And so my budget should reflect $150 worth of program expenses, correct?
That is correct. Yep. So
Okay.
you would and again you would edit that Excel spreadsheet to reflect the $150,000 spent each budget line item. So that is correct.
Mhm. And then this is a question probably more for Deborah. What is the percentage of historical grantees who have received the extra $50,000?
So I can't answer that. That would be, I don't know how to answer that question. Each grant competition has been different. This is frankly related. I believe you're asking about whether an organization can provide an evidence-based intervention. So that sounds like a question that is better asked in the Q&A document, but I don't even know if we're going to be able to answer that clearly enough.
I will ask in the Q&A.
Okay. Right.
Thank you, Ann. Next would be and I don't want to pronounce your name incorrectly, but Dele. Do you have additional questions, sir?
Yeah, I just want to ask, the copy of your recording, would that be available?
Absolutely, sir. We would share this out with all grantees that are on this call. In addition, I believe it would also live on our website as well. No problem. Any additional questions related to budget or the next RFA for fiscal year 2023?
I'm just going to jump in and say one thing here on line 32 where it says other direct program costs. I know Malik said earlier, if, for example, none of these lines work for what you're doing under program implementation, feel free to change that to whatever works for your organization. These were the common bucket items and large groupings that we have been able to glean over time, but that doesn't mean that every organization fits precisely in here. And I don't remember, but I think Vania said, but under supplies and materials, please include that calculation to be the number of youth. For example, if you have books, add that in the price per book times the number of youth so you know how many books we're getting and then how it's prorated. And then the last thing I wanted to add was, as Malik said, when you're a grantee, absolutely, we allow for budget modifications at pretty much any time during the grant period. We do, the budget modification would need to be if any category is plus or minus 10% of what is budgeted. That's it for me.
Thank you so much, Deborah. Yeah, and that's basically what it is. We just want to, again, like I always say on many of these calls, that our goal is to support our grantees. We appreciate all the great work you all do in our communities, and again, we want to work with you to make sure everything aligns with what you propose. And with that, of course, this is again a competition in RFA, but because it is a new budget template, we want to provide you all the opportunity to have an overview of it. This is again on our Learn24 website. And again, you can modify each bullet line item that will appropriately support your organization and your program. But there are opportunities where you can modify this if awarded after the point. So again, we do provide somewhat flexibility to our grantees, of course, but for the purpose of the application report, make sure that what you requested for the programmatic needs align in the budget. So that's something that, you know, at times can be an oversight for organizations. You know, you may request a certain amount, but then the budget line item doesn't quite calculate to that certain amount. So we just want you to be mindful and of course, provide us a narrative of how you got to your calculations. It strengthens your argument, your proposal, your applications, of course. So I hope this was clear today. I do apologize if I had to hop off, but we did want to provide you all an opportunity to ask any additional questions today. Again, I thank you all for joining on, and again, excuse us for any technical difficulties we had earlier, but something, you know, just happens at times. So if there's no additional questions, by all means, I want you all to have a great afternoon. Deborah, do you have anything you want to say before we hop off, or you're good to go?
I was just going to answer. I see that Kendall asked when the last day to ask questions in the RFAs is, and that's May 31st. Those will be answered by June 3rd, Friday, June 3rd, and applications are due June 7th. The email address is in the RFAs, which all can be found on Learn24. The Q&A documents can be accessed in the RFAs, and the email address is rfa.sy22-23@dc.gov. We also ask that anyone who applies makes sure that that email address is marked as accepted, so that it does not get caught in your spam filter. If we have questions after applications have been submitted, we will email organizations from that email address. So please make sure to enable that email address so it does not get caught in a spam filter. You don't respond to, thank you, Malik, for putting that in there. Because if we don't get an answer, then it's possible the organization would be marked ineligible to review. Okay.
Thank you, Deborah. So again, if there's no more further questions, again, thank you for your time today. I hope you all have a blessed afternoon. Again, feel free to reach out to our email address for any additional questions if anything comes up at a later date. Hello, Alex. Nice that you joined us. But again, thank you all. Have a great afternoon. Feel free to reach out to us anytime. And also good luck on your applications.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you very
Malik.
much. Thank you. Thank you.